Hi, this is Alessio. I hope you're well, and I hope you're having a good weekend. In this video, I want to do a very quick review and update on the chart of Bitcoin. I want to talk to you about what this particular level you're seeing here on my chart, what that means on both the short-term analysis, and also we'll talk about the long-term in a few minutes as well. Before we go into that though, I just want to play for you what I've been saying now for the last several months, going back to the summer period. Here's what I said to you back in the month of June and also in September. So here's what I think is likely to happen in the next few months, at least before September. I think Bitcoin potentially is going to break through this resistance that you're seeing here, this downtrend line, break out of this resistance, this downtrend line, and eventually when we get above the 10,000 level, we're potentially heading towards the 12,000 target some point this summer. Once we get above the 12,000 level or near that level, we're going to experience a correction. Be very cautious, very careful, because I think Bitcoin is going to give us one more chance, one more opportunity to get long on Bitcoin below the 10,000 level. In other words, guys, that correction, which is likely to happen sometime in September, that is going to be probably the last time Bitcoin is going to be sub 10K, below 10K. Probably the last time we'll have a chance to get long on Bitcoin at below the 10,000 level before we see the next major move up towards the previous highs of last year, 13,800 and potentially even higher, 16,000, 20,000, and eventually higher levels. So let me just make this point very clear. The minimum requirement for a bull market continuation and a pullback has been made. Okay, so the pattern for a bull market continuation, like the one, for example, we saw in like this chart over here from 2015, 2018, the typical pattern for a bull market continuation and a pullback has been done, has been made. So as far as I'm concerned, from a chart and technical perspective, all the conditions for a bull market continuation and a bullish breakout have been made. Okay, we've already explained why. We've had a breakout from the trend line to 12K. We've had a pullback to the 21. So all the conditions for a pullback and a bull market continuation have been made. All right, guys, so as you heard me say there, back in the month of June and also in September, I pointed out this chart, this long-term chart of Bitcoin, and I said at the time, in fact, guys, if you recall, back in the summer period, while a lot of people out there, most analysts out there were bearish here, we were one of the few people, you and I both knew that this market was going to go higher, which is what I said at the time. We're going to expect this market to go higher to the 12,000 level. And I also said we're going to see a pullback to the sub 10K level. And as you can see here in my video in September, in early September, when Bitcoin pulled back to its 21 average, you can see here in my video, I wrote this. I wrote that the typical pattern for a bull market continuation and pullback has been done. So again, my analysis all the way from summer, all the way to August to September has been bullish for Bitcoin. Now, I will explain to you in a few minutes what went wrong as well. But the bottom line here is this, guys. I think Bitcoin has been more than generous in giving us that last opportunity, which I think it was, by the way, for giving us the opportunity to buy the sub 10K levels one more time. And if you recall my video from back in September, in early September, I said this could be the last time we'll see Bitcoin at sub 10K. Again, a lot of people were skeptical. A lot of people were saying, no, Bitcoin is going to crash here. But again, we were saying, look, it's holding the 21 average. It's one more time giving us the chance to buy at sub 10K. And by the way, I did buy some Bitcoin at the sub 10K levels and near 10K. So guys, I think you will probably agree with me that Bitcoin has been very kind to us, very generous to us, to give us that last opportunity to buy at the sub 10K, near 10K levels. And yes, in case you're wondering, as I've been saying now for the last several weeks, my outlook for the long term on Bitcoin, and especially for next year, is very bullish. And I think, yes, perhaps by early next year, we could potentially be testing the 20K region here. Now look, guys, I know that my analysis has not been perfect. I'm not trying to say to you that my analysis for the past few weeks has been amazing and perfect. Absolutely not. It has not been perfect. And as a matter of fact, obviously I got several things wrong here. So the first thing is, as you probably guessed by now, my view on Bitcoin when it was rallying here to this resistance, as you may remember, I was cautious. I was being skeptical about this rally. I have to tell you, I had my doubts about this rally in Bitcoin. Now, obviously, in hindsight, I was wrong about that. And again, I'm sorry about that. But here's the thing. The fact is, guys, what really threw me off, what completely confused me, as I'm sure you know by now, is this. The fact that the correlation between the stock market and Bitcoin broke down in October. If it wasn't for this, I think my analysis would have been much better. I mean, this is unusual. Usually, we've seen in the past how the stock market and Bitcoin move in tandem majority of the time. And when this correlation broke down in October, so here you can see it much better. You can see that Bitcoin went higher, stock markets went down, and this got me completely confused. And I think if it hadn't been for this, again, I think my analysis would be much better. I would have been going with the chart of Bitcoin. But again, sometimes these things do happen when markets throw you curveballs, things that you don't expect. But look, here's the bottom line. I don't regret my decision to be cautious, to have been cautious about Bitcoin. Because one thing I've learned, guys, is that in technical analysis, when things don't make sense immediately, when correlations begin to break down, it's okay to be cautious. It's okay not to be aggressive. And if you're an experienced trader and analyst, then you'll know this. Before I discuss these trend lines, you'll notice a blue line here on my chart. And let me just discuss that. This blue line you'll see here, right there. This is the 1618 extension. The 1618 extension, that's the golden ratio extension, as I'm sure you probably know, of this move you're seeing here. Let me just zoom back a little bit so you can see it much better. Okay, so if you measure, if you were to measure this move from summer, from I think June it was, June to August, okay, this is the June-August move, all right, guys? And if you were to project that move from this low, okay, again, in Fibonacci analysis, this was called a projection or an extension. All right, guys, so if you were to project this move here from this low back in September, that would give you the 1618 extension of that move. In Fibonacci technical analysis and also in Elliott wave theory, the 1618 extension is usually a very important level. I said very likely we could be moving to that level. That could be our next target, the 1618 extension at 15,718, and Bitcoin could very likely pause there, and it has done. So far, Bitcoin has paused at that blue level, at the 1618 extension. By the way, you'll notice that Bitcoin has not yet tested its 21 daily moving average, the blue line you see on my chart. If you look at the blue line, for most of October, actually you can see, yeah, from October all the way till now, Bitcoin has not even once tested that 21 daily moving average, which is unusual. Usually you see a test at that level before you see another move higher. But it is what it is. So I think it's probable, if we are pausing here, if for the moment we're pausing at the 1618 extension, which is likely, then it's quite probable that any downside pressure here in Bitcoin could point it towards that 21 daily moving average, which, by the way, is catching up with the price. This 21 moving average is not static. It's going to move. As the name suggests, it's a moving average. So as that blue line is going to move up, I think we could see a test of that 21 average in the short term, in the next week or so. Okay, that's going to be very important in the next few weeks. So here's the bottom line. Let me go on a weekly chart now and show you this. Okay, now you may recall my previous video on Bitcoin, I mentioned this. I mentioned in the past, historically, usually when Bitcoin hits a trendline resistance, like you're seeing here, okay, here's a trendline resistance, hits the level, usually, again, statistically speaking, it doesn't usually have a happy ending. Usually price gets rejected from those levels, and in fact, you can see instances in the past where it has done that again. Here you can see 2017, and here it is again in 2016, it comes up to this level, gets slightly above it, and then gets rejected and just drops below the trend line. However, there are exceptions. As I showed you in my previous video update, there are exceptions to this rule. For example, in 2013, it broke the trend line, as you can see there. It tested it, okay, so it dinked it. As I mentioned to you in my previous video, Rhett and Link in Good Mythical Morning, they have a catchphrase, and the catchphrase is dink and sink. And I said, we have to wait and see if this dink, this test of the trend line, will it dink in and sink it? In other words, will it fail or will it bounce? So in the past, usually we see a dink and sink. Here it is. Bitcoin in 2013-14, it dinked it, but it sank, okay? That was a dink and sink. But this one here was a dink and bounce in the year 2013, okay? Tested it and then bounced and went significantly higher. What we can see right now on Bitcoin is not a dink and sink, but it's a dink and bounce. So far anyway, so far. So you can see what happened here. Bitcoin rallied above its trendline resistance. The trendline resistance you can see here on my chart, okay? Stayed above it. You can see stayed above that level. It did dink it. It did test it, as you can see right there, very recently. But it bounced from that level. It bounced off it. Okay, so far so good. I mean, let's wait and see what happens in the next week or so. I mean, it's possible. I guess you can say it's possible that Bitcoin may. I mean, it's tested at 1618 here, pausing at the 1618. Could it come back down here? I mean, is it possible it might come back down here to the trend line again and test it one more time? It's possible. We'll have to see what happens here. But here's one thing I will say, guys. Here's the bottom line. The fact is, at the moment, Bitcoin is above its trendline resistance. It's above that trendline magenta resistance there. That trendline resistance comes in about, I think it's about the 13,200 level here, 13,200 approximately. So let's wait and see what happens. As long as Bitcoin remains above this level, as long as it holds above that trendline resistance, bulls are in control for now. All right, guys? So keep it simple. I always say keep it simple. No need to complicate things. So for now, we've seen Bitcoin being resilient, being strong, holding above the trend line, rallying above it, testing it. So far, so good. Maybe it is like in 2013, where we saw a rally significantly higher above the trend line. It might be like that. But also, it might be, it might potentially come back and retest it like it did in 2016. You can see in 2016, it rallied above it and then came back and tested it, as you can see here. Now, we'll have to wait and see what happens this week and next week. I think the next 2 weeks, guys, on Bitcoin could give us a lot of information. So wait for that information in the next couple of weeks. Could be very important, because let's wait and see. Because if in the next couple of weeks, Bitcoin comes back again and tests this trend line one more time, then yeah, this could be very critical for Bitcoin if it should do that. All right, guys. If it holds it again, look, if it holds it and bounces off, then great. We could be looking at a fantastic December and fantastic 2021. However, as I'm sure you probably know, if it dinks it and sinks it, then wow, that could be really bad for Bitcoin if it actually breaks below the trend line. So that's what I got there. Let me just go on a lower time frame chart. Just quickly mention this as well. So again, we've hit the 1618. Let me go on an hourly chart. This is an hourly chart of Bitcoin. So you will see that so far Bitcoin is respecting that blue level, the 1618. But there is an extension above this level here. That's the orange level on my chart. That is also what you're seeing here is some levels of resistance I've calculated. Also, it's a 1618 extension, just to let you know. If you measure this move, this drop, that is a 1618 extension of this drop to the upside, okay? This level here. So that range, in case you're wondering, that range is between 16,400 to 16,700, if I'm not mistaken. If, by the way, if Bitcoin were to get above that resistance. If, in other words, if Bitcoin were to rally above that resistance high, that could be the next potential resistance and targets here in this range. By the way, that's assuming, Bitcoin gets above the recent high it made yesterday. So what I'm saying is, if Bitcoin were to get above the high it made yesterday on Friday and above the 161 extension, then that orange level that I just showed to you a few minutes ago, that orange level of resistance could be our next major resistance level there, okay? But again, if it fails to rally above that resistance, and if it holds and respects this 1618 extension, then we might see the beginning of a pullback to the 21 daily moving average. Again, my gut feeling at the moment tells me that a pullback to the 21 moving average here on the chart, perhaps to 14,500, is probable in the short term, in the next couple of weeks. All right, guys, I hope this video helps. If it has, please give it a thumbs up and look forward to seeing you in the next video update. Cheers, guys. Bye for now.